He's not getting out, at least not today. Sean Diddy Combs will remain behind bars as he awaits sentencing on 2 counts of prostitution. A short time ago, a judge denied his request for bail. But overall, today in federal court in New York was a big win for Combs. It was a split verdict. Combs is found not guilty on 3 of the most serious charges, racketeering and 2 counts of sex trafficking. Those charges could have landed him behind bars for life. The 55-year-old does face up to 20 years in prison, but that amount of time is highly unlikely. Criminal defense attorney David Oscar Markus joins me. Thank you very much for joining me. Prosecution and bringing this case, this is a big loss to the prosecution. But what are your thoughts? That they just overcharged us and thought they had a bigger case than they had? Or because it's a jury trial?
Such a huge loss for them, Greta. You said it right. I mean, they totally overcharged the case, number one. This case never should have been brought in federal court as a RICO case. I saw somebody wearing a really funny shirt after the verdict today. It said, being FRICO does not mean you're guilty of RICO, which I thought was really funny. The case should have been in state court for domestic violence. Everybody sort of knew that from the start, but the prosecutors tried to focus on this guy's a really bad guy, so let's get him in federal court. And a lot of institutions, people are arguing, are failing. One institution that stands up strong is our jury system, and thank goodness for it. It got it right today. It usually gets it right. And you and I know, are big believers in our jury system.
I am a big believer in the jury system because if you think about it, 12 people, they didn't know each other, and they sat and they listened to all the evidence, and they were in the courtroom. And yet, then you get people, no matter what the case is, who weren't in the courtroom, who have no idea of the evidence, but have an opinion as to the verdict, whether it's right or wrong. I mean, it's like I will support every jury, even the ones when I was unhappy with the verdict on my cases. I always thought jurors tried to get it right.
It drives me crazy when people criticize juries after acquittals like this. I saw a former prosecutor on Twitter today saying, justice wasn't served. How dare he say that? I mean, as you say, these jurors showed up for almost 3 months every day, put in so much work, and found him guilty of some of the counts, by the way. They obviously spent a lot of time and thought on it, and justice was served, whether you disagree with the verdict or not. So it's really wrong to criticize the verdict. Can you imagine the celebration tonight with the defense camp? It's going to be great. It's wrong that the client won't be able to be there. I think it's just outrageous that the judge denied bail after a case like this where Diddy was acquitted of the most serious counts. I think it's wrong that he was denied bail. He should be out celebrating with his lawyers tonight.
Well, the other thing about the trial is that there were no witnesses put on for the defense, and the defendant didn't testify, which I always think is the best strategy. The minute you put your client on the witness stand, he's 15 feet away from you, and you're going to hear things you never heard before, and he's going to make mistakes on cross-examination. And if you put other witnesses on, what you do is you give an opportunity to the prosecution to find holes in your case. So I always think it's very effective if you can, although the defendant has a right to testify, if you can just attack the prosecution's case.
Especially in a huge sprawling RICO case like this, they would have been able to go through with Combs again, the tapes and the videos and the texts. I mean, who wants that from their client? They were able to really impeach these witnesses who testified, and you want to leave it there. So it was obviously the right decision. It's always a tough decision to make because your client always wants to get up there and explain himself. But this was the right decision. Obviously, the jury found him not guilty of those main counts, and had he testified, who knows what would have happened.
It makes me think. He is such an unattractive guy. The things that he does are so appalling. At least I think they're pretty appalling. And you've got the video where he drags his girlfriend down the hall in the hotel, and it'd be so easy to convict him because you just don't like him. It's just, there's the video on our screen right now. Is that but that's not. He's not charged with being whether he's a likable guy or not. He's charged with a specific crime with specific elements that the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's the fear, right? And usually when the prosecutor has a case like this, they just want to make the defendant as unlikable as they can. And the defense's job is either to make the client likable or to say it doesn't matter. And in this case, they really leaned into it doesn't matter for a RICO charge in sex trafficking. The elements just weren't met. So they didn't really fight about whether he was likable or not. And so they left that aside and said it doesn't matter. You can like him or you don't have to like him. They just didn't prove the case. And so it was a fascinating defense with not putting anything on, not trying to make him a likable guy. Although I will say this, the judge really hamstrung Diddy during the case by saying you can't react to certain evidence and things like this. I mean, Diddy should be able to look at a juror and shake his head. I thought that was outrageous. And the judge's decision, again, to deny bail, I think he's really, he was not happy with the verdict, it seems.
But the judge can go beyond the evidence in sentencing him. But he can talk about that in his opinion that he's just he's just a reprehensible guy. So I mean I think he does face more time in jail in prison than what I think others think. And I think the fact that he wasn't released on bond tonight just shows you that's probably that he's going to get more time than people expect.
Prosecutors are going to ask for about 5 years. They showed that in their pleadings today. They say the guidelines are about 5 years. Defense said that the guidelines are about a year and a half. So he still has a little time, even under the defense version of the guidelines. It will be interesting to see what the judge does with the sentencing guidelines. He's been in a really bad prison for almost a year now, that one of the worst in the country. And so, the defense is going to argue that's enough for this prostitution charge. And they have a pretty good argument there. But yeah, the judge has shown he may give significantly more than the year he's already been in.
Well, it's hard to feel a whole lot of sympathy for him, at least in my opinion, which, of course, will go into the sentencing. David Oscar Markus, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. And Trump does it again. This time, it's CBS. CBS parent company Paramount settled a lawsuit filed by the president.